Hey, welcome to the Canadian Journalist, formerly Ernie Racing News. This is Marcel Ernie, your host, and today we're talking about Canada Post. How many of you have a package that's stuck in Canada Post's warehouses? I certainly do, and this is one of the reasons that I'm very interested in knowing if this strike will ever end and what's going to happen with my gifts that are stuck in the mail, ordered before the strike happened, and then now stuck. So here's an update. This is an update from this week. It was from Monday, but there's no news since then. And this is from Canada Post. And then we'll go and read what the Canada Union of Postal Workers says in their own local updates. So let's get back to Canada Post, which is, the Canada Post is a public company. So this is taxpayers. And well, how has Canada Post been doing since 2018? Well, it's been failing. It's been losing billions of dollars since 2018. Every year is a loss. So they need to make big changes to compete with the other shippers. Like we have the Purelator, and then you have for Canada. And then, of course, we have FedEx and DHL, and there's Amazon and all these guys. And how much does it cost per hour for a truck from Purelator or Amazon? How much do they pay for that person and that vehicle in a combined amount versus Canada Post? Well, guess what? Canada Post is much higher for that vehicle. So they're paying more per person, per vehicle, per hour. But let's just get into this email. With the Canada Union Postal Workers National Strike now in its fourth week, and it'll be its fifth week next week, the union's latest offer takes major steps backwards. So this is bad for everybody who's a Canadian here and has unfortunately had to use their service and got their items stuck. Canada Post has received the latest offers from the Canadian Union of Postal Workers and is extremely disappointed that their intent appears to be to widen the gap in negotiations rather than close it. We are conducting a full review of the offers for the urban and RSMCs, which is the rural and suburban mail carriers bargaining units, and will share more information as soon as possible. However, we do not want to provide false hope to impacted employees, businesses, charities, and northern communities that were hoping for a speedy resolution. We understand the serious impacts that the union's national strike is having on your business, our employees, and the millions of Canadians rely on blah, blah, blah. In the last few weeks, Canada Post has made several important moves to close the gap and reach negotiated agreements, but the union has reverted to their previous positions or increased their demands. On a side note, how interesting. Their demands have increased. So now the more they get in the nitty-gritty, the more they're like, no, let's hold line on this now. So we'll hear from the other end of that. Our core business is delivery. While postage services around the world are working constructively to evolve their delivery approach to respond to changing customer needs, the union's demands reinforce the status quo and add significant and unsustainable long-term fixed costs. One example is continuing to demand that our facility cleaning staff and other contracted support services become permanent Canada Post employees. So next subject, our deteriorating financial situation. Canada Post is at a critical junction in its history, with financial pressures mounting and now accelerating with unions' ongoing strike. Our long-lasting role as a vital publicly owned national infrastructure for Canadians and Canadian businesses is under significant threat. Canada Post will record another significant loss in 2024, the seventh consecutive annual loss for the corporation. Since 2018, the company has lost more than $3 billion. See, guys, this is as a side note. See, this is the problem with government, big government. Everything the government tries to control or has their business in, it seems to be a failure. It's always better to have a business that is privately run where it's competitive. And if it fails, there's none of this like, oh, let's fix the Ford or Chevy's going under and let's bail them out. The bailouts from the government for private companies also is always a destruction of everything. Let them fail. If they fail, they fail. Others will fill the positions of services and products that are needed. That's how the privatization system works. That's how It works. Communism just doesn't work. Look at them. They're failing. 8 years of loss. They should be done. Everyone should be fired. It should be over. Anyways, let's continue. A fair approach focused on our future. Our approach throughout negotiations has been fair, balanced, and straightforward, bringing much needed flexibility to our delivery model to improve service for Canadians and businesses while protecting values, blah, blah, blah. While the specifics of what we have offered remain in the confidential process, our focus has remained on the following: focused on the needs of the customers, changes to our mail-based delivery model that would allow for affordable and reliable weekend delivery, and other improvements, maintaining our largely full-time delivery workforce while creating weekend part-time positions, providing benefits, guaranteed hours, and opportunities for temporary employees. Next is focused on providing good jobs for people, building, blah, blah, blah. Wage increases above our previous offer. Approximately 70% of current employees are at the maximum current salary range, making more than $30 per hour, plus overtime and cost of living allowance payments. Next is providing good pensions for retirement. Next is maintaining up to 7 weeks of vacation and 13 personal days. And the last they say is maintaining stringent job security provisions. Okay, so that's what they're saying. So I guess if you compare this to your private job, how many people are making, $34, $35 an hour plus overtime with a cost of living allowance payments? What is cost of living allowance payments? We certainly don't get that in the private sector. And then pensions, that's a whole nother one. And then 7 weeks of vacation. 7 weeks. So 7 weeks times 7 days a week is 49 days of vacation, plus, 15 personal days, 64 days off a year. So that's 301 work days minus the 64 days off every year. It's kind of like you're going to school. So now on to the unions, Canadian Union of Postal Workers. And they got their photo gallery. Let's see what's going on. Have people out in the cold. Keep our post office public. You know what? I have a contact at the Canada Post from the Freedom Convoy. I should reach out to him. And here's their negotiations update, September 10th. In our most recent proposals to Canada Post, the union addresses many issues the employer had first brought to the bargaining table. Far from trying to widen the gap in negotiations, there's the quote, the union's intention is to help the parties come to negotiated agreements. The union wants nothing more than for its members to have good collective agreements with the rights protected. So, overtime. 15.08. The union agrees to allow the employer to take potential 15.08 overtime from route holders and assign work at straight time to unassigned relief and part-timers on extension. This is a cost savings to Canada Post. Relief complement. The union agrees to a combined relief complement to cover vacation and other absences. All deposits will have a minimum base relief of 22% of the full-time assignment in place of bar charts. There will be a new method to calculate additional relief that will account for all absences on a quarterly basis. This will allow for greater coverage of absences at the straight time. And I don't really understand what that means. Peak period. The union agrees to extend the length of the peak period and allow Canada Post to start training peak period temporary employees. Okay. Sounds like little small potatoes here they've agreed up to. Groups 3 and 4. Union agrees to allow employees in the MAM 10 and 11 classification to transfer voluntarily into the LEE 3 classification while maintaining their current salary scale. So some kind of grouping, again, small potatoes I don't understand. Conversation of the RSMC permanent relief employees to permanent flex employee. The union agrees to convert all of the permanent relief employees to permanent flex and will guarantee a minimum of 20 scheduled hours per week, but can be assigned to work up to 40. The PFE will maintain cover absences, but will also cover, okay. This is a sample of what they've agreed upon. So it sounds like nothing from my perspective, but I don't really understand this detail. Not a complete list of the proposals union has made to the employer to bring the parties closer. Yeah, so nothing that's like really big, like hours that you're going to work. Are you going to work weekends? What are you getting paid hourly? What are your benefits? What are your sick days? What are your days off? All those details, right? And this is the president, Jan Simpson. Jan Simpson, latest news. Okay, here we have December 12th. Stay strong, postal workers. The path to fairness is never easy. Is this Jan? In the midst of the ongoing strike, it's easy to feel disheartened. The pressure of public opinion, financial strain, and relentless pushback can make even the most steadfast among us question this fight. But this is the time to pause and remember why this strike matters. This isn't just about pay or benefits, it's about fairness, dignity, and the recognition that the work you do is important to communities across the country. Strikes are never easy, they demand sacrifice, resilience, and a belief that change is worth fighting for. It's natural to feel the weight of criticism, especially when disruptions to services bring frustration from the public. But let's not lose sight of the fact that this decision wasn't made lightly. Strikes are a last resort, an outcome of stalled negotiations and broken promises, and a necessary step to demand accountability. Every letter, package, and check you handle plays a crucial role in keeping communities connected and lives running smoothly. Yet the significance of this work is often overlooked amid the routines and demand of daily life. This strike serves as a chance to highlight the importance of your contributions to this country and to advocate for the respect and fairness that your work merits. Well, this is certainly reading interestingly. As difficult as it may feel, remember that you're not alone. You have your co-workers beside you facing the same challenges, striving for the same goals. Lean on one another when moral dips, share stories, and remind each other why this fight is necessary. Together, your collective strength can overcome any obstacle. Progress is rarely straightforward and change is often slow, but history is showing us that solidarity among workers can lead to victories. By holding the line, you're not only standing up for yourselves, but paving the way for future postal workers to be treated with the fairness they deserve. To every postal worker enduring this challenge, know that your courage and determination are invaluable. The path you're walking on may be hard, but it's for the cause that matters. When the strike is behind you, you'll look back with pride, knowing you stood firm for what was right. Stay strong. Your efforts today will shape tomorrow for all. In solidarity, Jan Simpson. Well, the fact is if your guys' demands are not met, and Canada Post can't afford to continue to lose billions of taxpayer dollars, what's going to happen? Well, you're all going to be fired. You're going to have to find new jobs, and you'll eventually have to, if you're sticking to this field, it'll probably be going to now that Purolator and FedEx and Amazon and the DHL and the Canpar are all going to need more employees to fill the void. Somebody's going to have to fill the void for these letters, right? From my perspective, Canada Post is not cheap. It's been in the last few years, to send like a little package or a little letter, just for me to send an oil analysis and just a little oil sample in an oil sample bottle in a letter, it used to be like under $15, or like it used to be around $10, $11. Now it's getting closer to $20 to send a package from Kelowna to Edmonton. I guess I should be researching the other shippers. I always just assumed Canada Post was competitive, but so it's getting more expensive from a consumer perspective, and the service never ships on weekends, which is getting non-competitive to the other guys, and now we're all getting pissed off with the strike from a consumer perspective. If we have something stuck in the mail, should have just stopped taking deliveries before the strike, cleared it out so you don't affect consumers as much. Now the business is losing. Canada Post, Canada Post, which is a publicly owned, again, liberal controlled right now, postal service is losing money. A competitor could fill the void. There could be a new shipper to fill the void and then hire all these people. I'm just looking at what options are available. What do you guys think in the comments? Do you have some package stuck in the mail for during the Christmas hours, before Christmas? Not just, and of course, none of us are getting mail. I don't even know when my next court date is. I should call the court because I'm like, when's my next court date? I should be getting it in the mail. And what are your demands again? What I saw that. Let's move on to the terrible Toronto Sun, but I guess their political angle doesn't really matter for a story like this. Canada Post strike gridlock. Management says union proposal would add 2.9 billion to costs. After yeah, and they're already losing that many billions. Almost a month into the strike, 55,000 workers at Canada Post. There's still no apparent end in sight. There are no scheduled talks. The federal government, which is Trudeau, declined yet again to get involved, and the Crown Corporation continued to trade barbs with the union and postal employees. Late Tuesday afternoon, the company said the union's latest proposal will add 2.9 billion to the Canada Post costs over the next 4 years. We've reviewed the union's demands, and they are unaffordable and unsustainable, adding billions of dollars in long-term fixed costs and further restricting our ability to compete with today's parcel market, says the head guy John Hamilton. The union proposal, delivered through a federally appointed arbitrator Monday, lowered wage demands to a 19% increase, because before they're asking for like 24%. So I saw that actually in the proposal on the. It also guaranteed a 20-hour per week guarantee for part-time workers, but they actually wanted sick days on top of that, I remember reading. The unions didn't immediately respond to requests for comment on the company's cost estimate Tuesday, but in a memo to members, it denied Canada Post's assertion that its latest proposal had widened the gap between the two sides. So it says Canada Post had previously said it offered wage increases totaling 11.5% over 4 years and additional paid leave while protecting the defined benefit pension and job security. The union had called for a combined wage hike of 24% over 4 years, as well as suggested Canada Post expand into banking. Though Canada Post is seeking to provide weekend deliveries and have a greater share of its staff working part-time, the union wants full-time workers to do weekend delivery, while the company wants to hire part-time staff to do the job. Okay, guys, well, I'm going to end this right now. 17 minutes. This is Canadian journalist Ernie Racing News. Make sure to give a like and a share and write in the comments what you think. Cheers.